Hi, everybody, and welcome to the second of Athletic Inc.'s Coffee Chat. Today, we have former professional golfer Charles Davies, currently doing strength conditioning coach. Hi, Charles. Welcome to the chat.
Hi, Carl. Thanks for having me. Nice to
No
catch
problem.
up with you.
Yeah, how are you doing during this circuit breaker period? Now that we're on to the 6th week, I think.
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Trying to keep busy, keep active, doing a lot of cooking and cleaning. But no, doing okay.
That's good.
Thanks.
I see you've been posting a lot of videos of exercise and mobility stuff on social media.
Yeah, I've kind of found my corner in the apartment
That's
where
good.
I can hopefully share some information, some stuff that people can be doing at home with minimal equipment.
When did you start playing golf? How old were you when you decided to play golf? Was that your first sport?
Yeah, that was probably my first proper sport. It was the year I was leaving Switzerland. So I was 9, turning 10 when I first club, and then I kind of had, it was like a few friends, even in Switzerland, we'd go and play a 5-hole golf course
Nice.
together, and just have some fun.
Okay. And who got you started playing golf?
It was actually a corporate golf day with the company my dad worked and have some fun. And then I think it was his boss who took me to the driving range,
Yeah.
and got me to hit a few clubs, and then told my dad that he had to buy me a golf set for Christmas. So that's what got me hooked.
So you were like a young prodigy.
Yeah.
That's a good way to start. Did you play any other sport while you were learning golf, or was that your only sport?
When I was in Singapore, then I was always big into track and field, like especially like 100 meters.
Okay.
And then squash was probably my other the second biggest.
Okay. So you were you're playing golf full time. After your studies, I believe you decided to turn pro. What made you decide to turn pro? And was there anyone encouraging you to turn pro, or just you thought you had it in you?
Probably from like the age of 16, 17, because I went back to the UK to do like sports studies,
Yeah.
but even that had a emphasis on golf. And then same when I went to uni as well. So it was always probably like, even from that age, I didn't think like I could do this as a career, but I would love to try out golf. It was just like golf, and I had full support from my parents.
Yeah.
I had a friend that I was always training with, like we were always playing together, three friends. Yeah, there was kind of nothing else on my mind
Besides
apart
golf.
from, yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
Yes.
It wasn't the most intellectual in school, always struggled.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have like great grades to fall back on. So I just was fully dedicated to golf, really.
Okay. Well, that's a good mindset. Just backing up a little bit, you mentioned that you were studying sports. So you're studying sports studies, which was golf focus, before university.
Yeah.
So equivalent to our secondary school here, you were already doing sports studies.
Yeah, and instead of IB or A levels, I went to do a national diploma.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. I wish we had it here. I mean,
yeah,
that shows how far ahead, I guess, in the UK, the guys in the UK are in terms of sports studies, and which I guess that allows you, when you're playing a sport and you're focused on your sport, like when you were focused on golf, it helps because you're learning things about how your body works and how movement works, mechanics and all that kind of stuff, and then you can apply that stuff when you are playing as well in your sport, right? So it's like you're never really away from sport. You're constantly involved in sport. Either you're studying it or you're applying it in the golf course.
Yeah, exactly. It was, I mean, from what I remember back then, it was quite sport generic.
Yeah.
a bit on nutrition. It was kind of touched on everything, not like a specific degree or anything like that.
Yeah.
And they had different, so they had it for then football, for rugby, for whatever sport you were playing.
Okay.
And they tailored it then towards your, and but I mean that facility was quite good. They had, I think they even had like a degree in golf course greenkeeping. So they actually had a 9-hole golf course at the facility. Who then the kids who were studying, that was their job to look after the golf course. And we had like indoor hitting area where then you had, I think we had 3 golf coaches there.
Okay.
It was kind of, I guess they were building it around what the US has.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of these like sports academies where you study and play.
Yeah.
But no, it was like you said, you were never away from the sport, so you're always getting
Yeah,
like
to me,
every
which is
day.
absolutely brilliant. I mean, I wish I had that when I was growing up, and because I remember sitting in school and not paying attention to any of the teachers, and all I would think about was playing sport. And I mean, if I had that, then I could put, you know, my all my energy into actually studying sport. Did that kind of give you confidence to turn professional, or what made you decide that you were going to turn pro after all this finish?
I mean, I was always the youngest in my grade, so I think I was still only 17 after coming out of that. So then I was sort of thinking, I mean, I knew my game wasn't ready then, ready to be at the professional level then.
Yeah.
I still wanted to go to university. I didn't want to just come back to Singapore and just keep training. And I think it was actually, it worked out well because I went to university in Plymouth, and it was the year that I went was the first year that this course started to run. Normally golf degrees are just golf business, like business management, sort of more on tournament organization, that side to the game.
Okay.
But then this degree opened where it was more on the playing aspect, sort of a bit of self-management, like business management about yourself, but then more on the playing side. It kind of worked out well. If I was a year earlier, sorry, then that wouldn't have existed, and I might have done something else.
Okay, so all worked out anyway for you.
Yeah, so then we were 10 or 12 in that first year, so it was very like a close knit group.
Okay.
And the course is like still going now. It's carried on being quite successful.
That's
So it was a lot more on the playing, competing. You had one-to-one time with the golf coach and stuff like that. So that was a degree to get you almost ready into sort of the playing life.
okay. And so you think that helped you in your career, in your golfing career? Do you think that played a role?
I was always an introvert, so I went to the UK because I knew I'd be closer to family, even though I would think I was still 4 or 5 hours away from any family.
Yeah.
But I was kind of too nervous to go to the US, and kind of like I know what Gary was saying. I listened to the last chat you had with him.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of the opposite. I would have said to get me more. I would say I always struggle to have that really strong competitive killer instinct,
Okay.
which the top guys have.
Yeah.
And all of find that kind of everyone has that in the US. No matter what, they're there to beat you, no matter what. So I think I wish I'd gone to the US to have that kind of team environment. Even golf is a individual sport. There they make it a team sport.
Yeah.
Go around the country together. So I wish I'd had that sort of we're going to win no matter what kind of atmosphere, training together, camaraderie, which we didn't have in the UK. It was very much individual sort of every tournament was to yourself.
Okay.
You're on your own, which is what golf is. It's very rarely team sport, but
At the end of the day, it's still an individual sport, unless you get onto the Ryder Cup or something.
yeah. And then they kind of relish that when they can play as a team.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, so I wish I had gone to the US just for that, to kind of get that competitive drive a bit more. I was always in my own way, I would say, holding myself back.
Okay. So when did you turn pro, and how long were you professional? And which tours were you playing on?
I was turned pro when I was 21, and then played up until 26, 27 years old. So it was like 5 or 6 years playing full time.
Okay.
Playing mostly on the Asian Development Tour and some smaller tours in Europe as well. But then was fortunate enough to play in some Asian Tour and European Tour events as well, which were
That's
great
good
too.
yeah, good for experience and all that. And what would you say is your greatest experience as a professional golfer?
Definitely playing my first European Tour event, getting an invite to go to Austria. And the coach I had was also the coach to Austria's #1, Bernd Wiesberger, who's a really successful European Tour player. So I got the chance to play in that tournament, and so flew from Jakarta to Austria. I think I got the invite like a week before as well, so everything was like last minute.
Yeah.
I had my friend come from England to caddy for me, and we were staying in like the tiniest little room in a farm because everything else was booked out because it's in such a small town.
Okay.
And the practice round was just like pouring with rain, 30-mile-an-hour winds, but we had to see the course because we had to know what we were playing.
Yeah.
And somehow the course was like, when the tournament came around, it was perfect sunny conditions. It was great. And I ended up missing the cut by 1.
Oh, wow.
And had a putt to make the cut on the last hole. I was the second last group on the Friday night. That was really disappointing, but I think it was one of the very few tournaments I've come off missing the cut, like really loving the whole experience.
That's good.
So that was, it was that kind of feeling that sort of still to this day, I miss that, when you're really in the zone and everything's kind of flowing.
Yeah.
And you sort of love that competitiveness. That's probably what I miss most.
Okay. And you were playing for about 6 years on tour, and then I believe there was an injury that happened, which caused you to think about retirement and all that. Maybe you want to share the listeners or people watching this what really happened, what went through your mind at that time as well. Were you, obviously, I'm sure you were disappointed, but how do you cope with all these things that were happening to you?
It was probably my last 2 years of playing were probably a bit of a write-off, you could say, because the way that the golf season works in the beginning of in Asia, in January is when Q school is. So that's where you need to go if you don't have playing rights on any tour. You need to go there to kind of achieve your playing card.
Okay.
So you can get on the Asian Development Tour or Asian Tour. So both years when I went there, well, the second year especially is when kind of everything really came all together. I went to Q school, and in the practice day, my lower back kind of had a spasm. So I'd been struggling from the year before as well with the lower back problem. It ended up being like a bulging a bulging disc is what I had.
Okay.
Like L4, which is quite common. People often have issues, and it's just whether it affects you or not. And
Yeah.
for me, because golf is such a rotational sport on the hips and a lot of kind of pressure on the lower back, like a rotation between upper and lower. For me, I just got to a point where it was so painful to rotate my hips open to the left that I just couldn't swing. I couldn't swing the club. And I was doing one stretch in Q school, and I just kind of felt a pop, and then that was it. My whole back just froze up, and I had to withdraw from Q school. And that kind of happened both years in a row. Like my first 3-4 months of the season were me fixing my back. So then when I was good enough to come back and play, feeling fit enough, I was all the way down at the bottom of the list of names.
Yeah.
So then I had an invitation into just a tiny event. And then I never had tournaments in a row to build up any momentum. I was just practicing, not knowing when my next tournament would be, trying to get anything, flying to Europe just to play in tournaments where you can pay to play. So it wasn't a great situation. I didn't feel comfortable. I was trying to play a tournament wherever I could, practicing for nothing. Because you want, like any sport with golf as well, you want to feel like you're kind of peaking.
That's right.
Get ready for the tournament. It's not just about hitting balls and, okay, I've got my swing, great, let's play a tournament. You need to be building on confidence in tournaments week after week.
Yeah.
And then when it kind of came mid of last season, I think when I was 27, I was kind of coming to the realization that I can't have another year like this, physically and mentally as well. I mean, I didn't feel great about myself.
Yeah.
Every time traveling to a tournament, driving 3 hours in Europe to go and play a tournament and coming home after 2 days, like, doesn't feel great after you've done it like 3-4 times in a row.
Yeah, I was going to say that the mental toll on you must have been really hard.
Yeah, and I guess it played a bit on me physically as well. Like, in the back of my mind, I was kind of thinking, I was always protective about my back. And then when you're traveling so much, you can't do the strength training that you need to be doing.
Yeah.
And all the traveling helped with the back issue as well. That was...
Yeah, and if you're driving for 3 hours, that's not going to do any good for your back as well.
No. So it kind of took a few conversations with my coach and my dad, I guess, just coming to sort of my decision at the end of the day, but just going, yeah, enough is enough, which was a really weird feeling, because like literally coming home and thinking, I don't have to go and play another tournament.
Yeah, I can relate to that a little bit. Yeah, but what I mean, that must have been a really terrible feeling to finally call it quits on something that you would have dreamt of doing, since you were a young kid. I'm pretty sure when you were 6, when you first picked up that golf club, you dreamt of wanting to turn pro, and finally achieving that, and then having to call it quits after 6 years, that must have been, a real letdown for yourself. How did you manage to cope with that? How do you manage to move forward? I mean, now, we're working together. We're both strength conditioning coaches working with athletes. How did you progress into that? Was it something that you knew you always wanted to do, or was it, something that just came up?
It was, I definitely knew I wanted to still do something with golf, and I'd always been into working out and going to the gym. And kind of, it was the physio that I started working with in my last season who actually did get me back on the right track, but I just couldn't do enough of it. And sort of, I was 27, turning 28, and I didn't want to waste any more time trying to chase a dream. But he was the first one. I had countless sort of sessions with different physios, but he was actually the first one who, I think I did 2 sessions with him of rehab, where he was just like literally getting his elbow into my glutes, loosening me up, doing some basic rehab movements. And then by the 3rd session, he had me doing a squat and a deadlift. Okay. And I was like, pain-free. And just kind of that beginning, that instant feel of muscles working took away the pain. So that's what made me want to learn more about sort of what caused my issue. And I knew about things like the Titleist Performance Institute. I knew that was available. It was still quite, took a while to kind of get comfortable with the issue that I was really going to go down this now, like I hadn't studied in 10 years and now I have to go back to studying.
Yeah.
That was a bit to get used to, but sort of it makes a difference when it's something you're interested in. So,
yeah, definitely.
So that was, I guess, the biggest sort of, and figuring out where, I mean, I had a girlfriend at the time in Germany and I didn't speak fluent German. So it's like, I can't just go and work in Germany. And so then it was a bit of, where are we going to live? So I had different things going on at that time as well. But it's all worked out well. Now we're based here in Singapore, both working. But it's definitely tough in the beginning. Just a bit of that motivation to get me started down a completely different new path in life. Okay. But now that I'm on it, it's good. It feels it's fun and kind of always learning. Of course, I miss golf. I don't get to play as much as I'd like to at all now, but it's still good to be part of the game, helping golfers in the gym and other athletes as well. So yeah.
So yeah, coming on to that, I believe you are currently working with a few local professionals and a few local national team players, as well as some age groupers as well. Was that easy to start off? Was it something that was easy to get traction because you were a golfer before and people knew who you were, or was it something you had to work hard to, putting yourself out there, obviously, because this is something new. You're not actually coaching golf, you're coaching, the strength or the conditioning part of it, right? And I'm going to be blunt here, but I think not all golfers see the actual need for strength conditioning. I mean, I used to see really, really unfit golfers on tour, but they're not bad golf. They're good golfers. Just that, I remember there's one guy who was smoking a cigar on course. Even if I don't remember his name, but I do remember seeing someone like that.
John Daly's diet of Diet Coke and cigarettes.
So yeah, I wasn't wrong. So maybe tell us more about
it was definitely, I think I was coming in at the right time, especially with some of the national team, what they wanted their team to be doing on the national team, because they understand the next kind of level is not just, they have a great coach now, but he really understands the importance of being fit. He's worked with top players on the PGA Tour. so he understands it's part and parcel. You can be mentally strong, your game can be really sharp, but being physically strong, one for like being fit right now and being strong enough for your to compete and powerful, but also longevity. Sort of that's what drives me as well, is because I know if I wish I had someone like myself training me when I was 15, because that's the age where you need to instill, I believe, kind of good core strength, base level strength, to make sure that you can, if you're doing a repetitive sport like tennis, golf, even the swimmers we train, it's just non-stop. They're like machines.
Yeah.
Golfers can be on the range hitting 200-300 balls one way. Everything's moving one way all the time. So everything needs to be balanced. Everything needs to be, the foundations need to be set in place, which is what I think coaches with good, who know what they're doing, understand that someone like myself in the strength and conditioning kind of aspect of the game is very important for their players. And then players, sort of the older ones who are maybe mid-20s on tour, are really understanding that they need to be getting in the gym as well. So that they had their amateur days where amateur golf is quite nice and relaxed and fun. But if they want to be competing on like getting to top 60 in Asian tour, moving on to like European tour, if that's their goal, they know that purely skill alone won't get you there anymore.
Yeah, I've seen some of the top pros doing some really intense workouts in the gym. I've read up on some of the guys, and I know that some of them actually lift even before they go and play, their first day of 18 holes or something. So I guess it's something that it's changing the game, I would say. Do you think that if you had this kind of training and all that when you were playing, do you think it would have prolonged your career? Do you think it would, you would have had that injury?
I think I probably could be almost 100% sure I would have avoided the injury. If I was kind of 16 now, and having training in a place like where we work in AI, getting that kind of strict workout in, because I was going to the gym, but I was just doing superficial stuff, so it wasn't having any athletic improvement.
Okay. Did you have someone working, helping you with the stuff, with the programming, or were you kind of on your own, just watching stuff on YouTube?
On my own, yeah. Okay. Just I knew basic exercises, but it was very, even I think if I did legs, it was machine based. So I never did a deadlift or I don't think I saw a hex bar until I was like maybe 22. And it wasn't structured enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you see younger golfers now getting into a routine where conditioning work and the strength work comes in, or do you still think there's not enough of this going in the golfing scene? What's your thoughts on that?
A little by little, I'd say it's growing, just because it just especially from the younger golfers here on the team, it takes a couple of them to come and who have kind of made the jump to come out and try some training on their own.
Yeah.
So then that gets a bit of traction with the others, but then still not half as many as I'd like to see in the gym. Okay. And a lot of them just, I know it's just a bit too relaxed. It depends what their goals are and their drive. Not every golfer wants to be on tour. I get that.
Yeah,
The ones who do need to kind of realize that it's not 2 hours on the range, go and have a social game of golf and maybe hit a few chips at the end of the day. It needs to be like it should be second nature to just go to the changing room and warm up for 10 minutes, even
yeah,
a couple of resistance bands before you, it's like, say for any sport, sort of train and play how you would do it in a tournament. So it doesn't feel any different. So many guys get to a big stage and in a smaller event, they might just go and hit 10 balls just to get loose. But now, because everyone does it, they have to go and spend 45 minutes on the driving range before they play, which is kind of 30 to 45 minutes is what you should be doing anyways.
yeah.
And then it's kind of a complete shock to them. So they're far too casual. And then when it means something, they think they need to be the number one pro in the world. And overdoing it.
I mean, I think it goes for all sports, right? Not just golf. That it doesn't matter whether you're professional or amateur or your weekend. You just play on the weekends. I think, like you said, conditioning and strengthening work should be part of your your routine. Whatever sport that you're playing, just like we talked about, you're talking about longevity. If you want to play a sport for a long time, right? Most people I know, in their late 30s or early 40s, they can't play the sport they want because they're hampered by injury that they've gotten from playing that sport, right? So all this, I wouldn't say it's 100% avoidable, but it can be avoided if you have the right, training and programming going on.
Yeah, and I've done a couple of talks in a couple of members clubs here where just teaching people just with 2 resistance bands how they can be warming up before they go and play, and especially for people who are social golfers and they spend 50 hours at a desk a week,
Yeah.
and meetings and everything like that, and then they expect to jump out of bed for a 7 a.m. tea time on a Saturday and go and play the best golf of their life. And it takes them the front 9 to get warmed up.
Yeah.
And then they get on the beers on the back 9.
sounds like a great day to spend playing your sport that you love so much. I mean, rather than spending, like, I got guys looking at me and asking me like, oh, can you recommend any sort of special tools or stuff I can wear or use, to help me with my injuries? I'm like, instead of spending that money on all these little gadgets that you think is going to help you, why don't you just spend that money on getting a program, a good structure, the program where it helps you, right? And this, it doesn't just help you for your sport, but it helps you, basically for your whole life, longevity and all that, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of not, people want the quick and easy way, but it's just reinstilling good movement within your body and getting your joints healthy and everything like that, and making sure you're actually strong enough to play the sport that you want to play. So it doesn't look like for golf, it doesn't look like an aggressive movement, but it is quite taxing on the body, and your body will move in any way it can to kind of avoid stiffness and things like that. And that might be the way that you swing, but then over time, if you're compensating, that will catch up with you, and that's what leads to the injury.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, now every time I swing, my back goes out. Or my shoulder hurts every time I play after like 5-6 rounds, and then I have to rest for a month, and then my shoulder starts hurting. And it's like, well, it's because it's so stiff, it can't bend that way. But you keep trying to push it back in that position. So it could take a few weeks of mobility training and you're on your way to like healthy joints.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, are we gonna see you on the golf course again anytime soon, or are you gonna? Have you been playing golf even?
I think this year I've maybe had one round of golf.
That, that's not much at all.
No, I've been going to the driving range. Try and at least go once a month. But
Okay.
yeah, golf in Singapore is a bit expensive.
Yeah.
So getting on the driving range is at least good enough for me. And then I'll always get to play when I go back to Phuket to see my parents. I'll go
Yeah.
out with my dad. Nice.
Nice.
Um,
Okay.
and
Something to look forward to.
yeah, be probably one of the first places we'll go out of this lockdown is try and have a weekend in Phuket when it's allowed.
Yeah.
But definitely not going to try and make a return to pro life, just because it's too. I mean, when talking about the Q school
Yeah.
around the world, you've got Q schools for every tour, and I mean there are thousands of people signing up now. The level of competition is just so high, and that's how you have to start your career. Is that one, like 1, 2, or 3 weeks? There's different stages. So you really need your top game to come together on that week, because scoring is just so low. So that's the biggest. You kind of have to, in a way, put all your eggs in a basket, and it's very very expensive as well.
Almost
But
like a do or die
yeah,
kind of.
it really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
you can't rely on one tour as well. You need to be on probably 2 tours to really be having a full schedule, and um, that teaches you to travel as well.
okay.
And the Asian tour, people get a bit stuck in a bubble. They kind of need to go to Europe for a season to see what it other competition feels like.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's totally different out there. I mean, weather and all that is also different.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
that's yeah.
that changes a lot. All right, Charles. So, you grew up playing golf. You were pro. Then you stopped golf. Now you're a strength conditioning coach. Are you happy with what's progressed throughout, so far?
Yeah, definitely, because my eyes are being opened up to different sports. AI is very swimming oriented, um, and I'm really getting to learn a lot more about a different sport, different training styles. Um, Chat with people like Gary and other NTC coaches who are really kind of top of their game,
Yeah.
and even the national team swimmers coming in twice a week. So really getting to see who are kind of they're on the road to the Olympics, um, getting to see their level of dedication and training, what they're putting in. I mean, they're in the pool. They come from the pool at 9 a.m. So they've already done 2 hours of swim training. So swimming, it wasn't until working here that I realized how much um, training swimmers need to put in to
Yeah.
really be at top level, sort of in the gym, and sometimes 2 swims a day.
Yeah. Hence,
More intense than, and juggling that with school.
yeah.
I don't know how the kids do it.
Even I don't know how to do it.
No,
Yeah.
it's
All right. Comes to our last question. Now that you've been through all this, do you have any, any wise words for the viewers out there? People who might be considering taking sport as their career, or even changing, moving on from their playing days into another, still staying within sport, still working within sport, and obviously you're a strength conditioning coach now. Is there, do you have any advice for these guys?
For the second point, kind of moving away from playing, if you're wanting to stay within the sport, I would say really find maybe a niche in the sport or sport industry that you're really passionate about, and that maybe you feel like you can make a change for the better, which might be tough when you've got a lot of sporting authorities always to go up against. And to change people's minds is always the toughest part, when people have been doing things a certain way, whether that be sort of training styles or training camps, what you could be doing better. And then for people who want to get into playing, I would really say make sure that you're doing everything 100%. The top, sort of watching The Last Dance right now about Michael Jordan. I mean, he was giving it another 50%, 100% than anybody else out on. Not everyone can have that kind of mentality. It would drive a lot of people crazy. Like, his one quote in it was, "I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competitive problem."
Yeah.
You could probably would say that's true. Anything he does, it would probably be like, with him, it would be who can run up the stairs faster. Anything he can beat you at, he's going to beat you at. But meaning more, make sure that you're doing everything to the best of your abilities to give yourself the best chance. But then also don't. What I wish I'd done is maybe be a bit more, do other things. I was so golf focused. I really didn't have anything else in my life apart from golf.
Okay.
Make sure you have other. Of course, I would hang out with friends and stuff, but maybe make sure you've got other activities as hobbies, so it doesn't become too serious.
Yeah.
Giving it 100%, but don't become too serious about it, because it will just drive you become more emotionally involved than you need to be, I would say.
Exactly. Sometimes you need something else as a distraction to just, take your mind off whatever your sport you're playing at the moment. All right, Charles. Thanks for coming on the show. Thank you for spending some time with us. Hope to see you soon after this circuit breaker is done.
Yeah, you only live 200 yards away, but haven't seen you in 6 weeks.
Exactly. Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon. Take care, Charles.
Yeah.